scariest thing in the universe? Grondo smiled as he looked over his cards. He had a full Mondi. This round was his for the taking. Scariest how? What do you mean how? Vygar was frowning at his cards. Must not have a good hand. He discarded 3 cards and drew another. Vygar was an Ogeron, just like Grondo. 3 meters of hulking muscle, and nearly as wide as they were tall. Their skin was thick. Their eyes were beady. Their love was violence. Some species made the mistake of assuming the Ogerons were more strong than quick, or more brawn than brains. Those species usually found their skulls adorning Grondo's trophy room. Scary's scary, isn't it? Scary's a pretty broad topic, Vygar. Grondo patiently explained. Are we talking about the scariest individual we've met, the scariest species, or the existential horrors of existence? He paused on his chance to change out a card. His hand was perfect. They're all perfectly good topics for a night of cards and drinking, but we should probably just pick one. I vote no on the existential horror. Avolo spoke up. Avolo was a Yawvan. Like Grondo, he was a 2-armed biped, but he was only 2 meters tall. Avolo was muscular but lean with retractable claws and pebbly yellow skin. Instead of hair, he had thin, spiky tendrils. The tendrils were venomous. You don't know how many card games I've seen ruined by drunk idiots asking stupid questions like, why are we here? I know why I'm here, said Grondo. I like booze. I want to drink more of it. It wasn't a question about why we're in the lodge, Grondo. Avalo rolled his eyes. I was speaking existentially. So was I, Grondo smirked, waggling his bottle before he took another chug. The Hunter's Lodge was the section of the bunker that served as a restaurant and bar. The bunker served as the base of operations for hunters on Kivatar Prime. Kivatar was a death world, Class 9. It was far too lethal a place for sapients to live, but hunters traveled from all over the galaxy to test themselves against the larger carnivores that lived there. Bunkers like this one were scattered throughout the world. The bunkers were always buried 300 meters underground and outfitted with every defense, force field, and safety measure the owners could devise. Even the best defenses weren't always enough on a Class 9 death world, but the risk appealed to a certain clientele, of which Grondo was one.
Let's do species,
Wardoa suggested. She was a Milokai, not a 2-armed biped. Wardoa had 4 legs, 4 arms, and 6 eyes. Her feet were as dexterous as her hands, and she had an annoying habit of using one of them to hold her cards while she lounged in her chair.
I'm always looking for something new to hunt. Tell me the scariest things so I can hunt them.
Vygar grinned playfully at the woman. That's big talk, little Milokai. Didn't I have to save you from being eaten 2 hours ago?
I had to save your dumbass an hour before that,
she reminded him. No, you didn't, Vygar denied. Ain't nothing can kill old Vygar. He flexed his arms and grinned wider. Ain't no need to make up stories, Wardoa. We all know you just wanted to steal my kill.
Is that so?
Wardoa snorted. Her smile was sly.
Well, excuse me. Next time I'll let the Varlak eat you.
Would serve him right, wouldn't it? Grondo chimed in with a chuckle. The only reason Vygar thinks he's invincible is 'cause one of us is saving his ass all the time. Vygar laughed along with everyone else. Why don't you go first, Vygar? What's the scariest species you ever met? Oh, that's easy. The other Orgaran laid his cards down, indicating a forfeit. Propagators. Grondo nodded sagely. The other 2 looked confused. Avalo asked, What's a propagator? That's just what Grondo and I call them, Vygar told him. They don't have an official name. The powers that be try to keep them under wraps. They don't want some idiot corporation trying to capture the damned things, Grondo elaborated. Trying to harness the perfect organism and whatnot. Don't want idiot hunters like me and Vigar seeking them out either. He laid his cards down face up. Mondi, by the way. There were groans as the others threw down their cards. Grondo pulled in his winnings while Avalo dealt another round. They're carnivores, Vigar continued. Pursuit predators of the attack everything they see variety. They might as well be ambush predators, though. They're sneakier than a skinnick. He shook his head. Stealthy, quick, and resilient to small arms fire. Propagators are the meanest, nastiest, most lethal beasties I ever saw.
That's high praise coming from you,
Wardoa smirked.
What makes these things so special?
Viciousness and adaptability, said Vigar. Propagators can thrive in any environment, any ocean, any atmosphere, even the vacuum of space. They're immune to every kind of poison and disease, and their blood is an acid so strong a few drops will melt through the hull of a ship. Avalo let out a low whistle.
That could make killing them a little complicated,
Wardoa noted. Oh, I'm just getting started, Vigar told him. The real interesting thing about propagators is their breeding cycle. Looks like your standard hive set up at first. Got a big old queen laying eggs while the drones bring food and defend the nest. The thing is, Vigar leaned forward, fixing Wardoa with a serious gaze. The things that hatch out of the eggs are just a delivery system. Propagators breed by impregnating other species. Nasty little things, Grondo added. Strong enough to bend steel, and they can secrete acid to melt through any barrier you put up. I've seen one emit a resonant energy field to push through a force screen. They latch onto a victim and chemically paralyze them. Causes minor amnesia, too, so the victim doesn't know what happened. Then they insert a thin proscus that rewrites the DNA in some of the poor wretch's flesh. The tissue becomes an embryo that shares traits with the victim, but it's always bigger and meaner, with acid blood and at least one serrated tail. The embryo grows fast, usually tearing its way out of the victim within hours. Vigar picked up the conversation. Propagators can go from egg to full-grown adult in less than a day. Mature into an egg-laying queen in under a week. Vigar shuddered as he poured himself another drink. A single specimen landing on a planet can turn the whole world into a hive in under a cycle. Seen it happen, added Grondo. Acaris 5, some 200 cycles ago. Me and Zygar were Ogaran Special Forces then. We were the only two in our unit to make it out alive. Acaris got declared a Class 10 death world, said Zygar. Blockaded and quarantined until the Orgaran military could get a task force together. Glassed the surface of the planet, then sent crews to set up planetary anchors. Lost most of the crews, Grondo shook his head, but they got the job done. Once the anchors were set, the Armada pulled Acaris out of orbit and launched the whole damned planet into the nearest star. Zygar tried to drink, but his bottle was empty. It was the only way to be sure. He waved at the waitress to bring him another. If these things killed a planet, Avalo said skeptically, how come I never heard of them? The history was scrubbed on account of the queens, Zygar told him. Propagator queens are a cognito hazard.
A what?
Wardoa blinked all 6 eyes. Cognito hazard, Zygar repeated. It means even knowing about them is dangerous. Sizes vary depending on what species they breed with, said Grondo. But queens are 6 meters tall at a minimum. They can lay thousands of eggs a day, and they're smarter than most sapiens. I mean, use technology smart. We've seen one operate a void ship.
Skinnick scat,
Wardoa scoffed. We kid you not, said Vigar. I blew it out of the sky myself. Barely, Grondo added. If that thing had another few minutes to figure out the controls, she'd have ganked us both. Skinnick scat, Avalo seconded. He tilted his head. That does sound crazy, though. That's not even the biggest problem, Vygar told him. His usual grin was gone, replaced with a faraway look that Grondo was all too familiar with. The Queens ain't just smart. They're psionic, mid-grade telepaths.
Okay, now I know you're just messing with us,
Wardoa declared. I wish I was, said Vygar. Propagator Queens control their drones telepathically. That's not all they can do, either. They can reach across the void. Grondo felt his own 1,000-meter stare kicking in. Any sapient gets close to a queen, it makes a connection. That queen, or another like it, can send them images, I guess. Nightmares. He took a big swig from his bottle. He was going to need a lot more booze tonight. They call to you. Break your mind down until you want them. Weaker-minded sapients go insane. They'll try to free any queen held captive, and they'll hunt other sapients to deliver to the drones. He shook his head under the weight of the memory. That's why they're a cognito hazard. Vygar nodded solemnly, polishing off a bottle of his own. Grondo and I always know when the propagators pop up again, because of the nightmares.
You're full of it,
Wardoa decided.
If knowing about them was that dangerous, you wouldn't be telling us the story.
Nah, Vygar waved away her objection. We told the story a bunch of times, and no one's called us about any weird dreams. Jillo did, Grondo reminded him. Jillo doesn't count, Vygar told him. The guy's a hypochondriac. We're pretty sure you won't have a problem. You got to be in the same solar system as a queen before they can make a connection. He shrugged. Probably. Probably, Avolo snorted. I think I'd be pretty upset right now if I didn't know you were full of scat.
It's too bad, too, said Wardoa. They sound terrifying.
She traded in 2 of her cards, with her feet, like a jerk.
Made up, but terrifying. Who's going next?
Why don't you go next, Rookie? Vygar pointed at Wardoa with his bottle.
Rookie?
All 6 of her eyes narrowed.
Do you want to rephrase that, Vygar, while you still have your health?
Nope, Vygar doubled down. I called you a rookie because that's what you are. You've only been hunting for what, 5 cycles?
6,
Wardoa growled. Me and Grondo have been hunting for nearly 2 centuries, Vygar reminded her. Compared to us, you might as well have been born yesterday.
And I'll outlive you if I bury you today, the Milokai warned, if you call me Rookie again.
Now, Wardoa, Grondo stepped in. No need to get heated. You might be a young blood, but you were plenty impressive out there. We wouldn't let you hunt with us if we didn't have faith in your skills.
I am not a rookie,
Wardoa let out a hiss, still glaring at Vygar. All right. Vygar raised his hands in surrender, still grinning. Stop glaring at me. I'll be a good boy. No, he won't, said Grondo. But we're done razzing you for now, right, Vygar? He glowered at Vygar. The other Ogeron rolled his eyes, but gave a nod. Grondo waved at the waitress. Why don't you let me buy you a drink, and you can tell us your scariest species? Wardoa glared a moment longer, then gave an annoyed hiss.
Fine.
She pulled out a hollow emitter and slapped it on the table.
Mine's not a world-ending hive monster with acid blood and telepathy, but it's real.
She pressed a button.
And unlike you, I can prove it.
One of the most horrifying creatures Grondo had ever seen appeared above the table. Ogre's balls, Vygar swore. What the grin is that? The creature's body was roughly spherical and 4 meters across. It was covered in eyes. Legs and tentacles protruded in all directions. Several of the tentacles were thicker than Grondo's leg and ended in mouths full of sharp teeth. The skin of the creature was red, but the colors changed as Grondo watched.
Monstrodolor,
Wardoa said proudly.
Carnivore, ambush predator. They're native to Milokai Prime. Monstrodolors can change color to blend in with their environment, and each leg has a spinneret that can eject silk at 80 meters per second. The silk's sticky and stronger than steel. They are also incredibly venomous. A single drop of their neurotoxin is enough to kill 2,000 of my kind.
Nasty, said Avalo.
Monstrodolors are the main reason Milokai Prime is a Class 7 death world, Wardour continued. We've tried to hunt them to extinction dozens of times, but they're too sneaky and too dangerous. They breed fast, too. My people don't go outdoors without power armor, and a lot of us still don't make it back.
Sounds fun, said Vygar. I think we just found my next stop.
Have fun with that, said Wardour. I'll say something nice at your funeral.
That's nice, Grondo quipped. I'll bet you're the only one who does. Grondo, Vygar protested. How dare you? I'll have you know I'm universally loved. He took a swig and let out an enormous belch. Besides, there won't be a funeral. I'm invincible, remember? Your ego certainly is, Avolo deadpanned. Damn right. Vygar raised his bottle in a toast to himself. Why don't you go next, Avolo? What's the scariest beastie you ever seen? Avalo was silent for a moment, staring at his cards. Then he nodded to himself and said, The multiplicity. Grondo and Vygar shuddered, murmuring agreement. Wardour looked confused. Avolo continued, Carnivore, shapeshifter, mimic predator. No one knows where the thing came from, but it's considered an existential threat. A single hint of its presence is reason enough to lock down a whole civilization. Whole planets are extinguished if a sighting is confirmed.
Why? Asked Wardour. What's it do?
It spreads, said Avalo. The multiplicity is a single organism that can separate into parts. Every part stays connected to the whole regardless of distance. Every part knows everything the rest of it knows, and every part can take any biological shape it wants, including shapes that biology can't support. It can form weapons, giant mouths full of teeth, grow legs or stingers or wings, whatever it needs. It's not classified as sapient, Grondo put in, mostly because it doesn't do anything but eat and spread. It's smart, though, damned smart, and it's got the combined knowledge of billions of beings. Its standard mode of operation is to take the form of something innocuous, Avolo continued. A pet, an insect, something people aren't on the lookout for. Then it infiltrates an area, gets itself alone with a sapient, eats the poor fool. Then it shifts into a perfect copy of whoever it ate, right down to the DNA, the memories even. Then it gets alone with another sapient and eats them too, splits a piece of itself off as a copy of that one. Only takes it a couple of minutes to eat and make a copy, Vygar put in, and the copies are good enough to fool sensors and biometric locks. The multiplicities managed to take entire planets before anyone noticed what was happening. It infected entire civilizations the first time it popped up, Avalo agreed. 9 sapient species were wiped out completely. The multiplicity's hard to find, and even harder to fight. Blades and kinetic weapons are useless, and most energy weapons aren't much better. It'll bounce back immediately from anything less than total disintegration. Or fire, said Grondo. Burning it works, if you're fighting in an oxygen-rich environment. Which you won't be a lot of the time, said Avalo. The multiplicity goes dormant in extreme cold, but other than that it can live anywhere. The thing likes to smear itself on celestial bodies when it passes through a solar system, comets and asteroids and the like. Every time the powers that be think it's finally dead, it pops up somewhere else. Those little bits are almost as dangerous as a full-sized mimic, Avalo continued. The multiplicity controls its parts at the cellular level. A single drop of blood or bit of flesh can infect anyone unlucky enough to touch it. The thing will eat them from the inside in a matter of hours, and the cycle will start all over again. The only way to kill the multiplicity is to kill the whole thing, Grondo added. Every cell. The problem is the thing's spread pieces of itself all over the galaxy. We'll never know if we got them all.
If this multiplicity thing's so dangerous,
Wardua said skeptically,
then why haven't I heard of it?
Vigar shrugged. There hasn't been a sighting in 80 cycles. I doubt your people's education system cares about existential threats that don't exist anymore. That's not true, actually, said Avalo. The multiplicity was encountered 16 cycles ago, a small infection on a research station over Queerzar 7. Skinnikskat, Vigar called. Oh? Avalo gave the Orgaran a look. You think the Yervan Ascendancy would tell anyone there was a sighting, knowing what the powers would do if they found out? Fair point, Vigar admitted. Do go on. Like I said, it was a research station, Avalo grimaced, setting his cards face down in another forfeit. A little on the small side, just a couple dozen researchers and a bunch of scanning equipment. I was never given the details on the nature of the research, but whatever it was involved pulling in small asteroids. One of the asteroids had a few drops of blood frozen to its surface. Scanners didn't pick it up, Grondo frowned. Only an idiot would bring space objects on board without running a scan. Who knows what kind of pathogen might be attached? Civilians are lazy, Avalo said with a shrug, and you'd be amazed how stupid some scientists are. They didn't bother with a scan, just brought it on board and irradiated it enough to kill any microbes. Dumbasses, Vigar shook his head. They'd taken most of the station by the time anyone realized what was happening, Avalo continued. One of the security detail caught a scientist getting eaten on the sensor feed. Smart lady. She immediately sent a message to command, then blew up all the escape craft. Didn't even try to escape. Gods bless her.
And that's where you came in, I take it?
Wardua picked up her drink with a foot and had a sip. I was a stellar commando, Avalo confirmed. Just a sergeant at the time. Our ship was the closest, so we got to go. We arrived 11 hours after the transmission. Everything looked normal. Normal? Grondo raised an eyebrow. I thought you said all the escape craft got scrapped. They did, Avalo agreed. The thing masquerading as the lead scientist told us one of their security officers had gone crazy. He was pretty convincing. He snorted. We weren't taking any chances, though. We kept the ship 8,000 kilometers away and sent in a dropship. Drones only, no biological personnel. Smart, Vigar approved. Saved our lives, said Avalo. The drones swept into the station the moment the ship was docked. They blasted the arm off the first person they saw. I thought the CO had lost his mind. He shook his head. Then the drone set the arm on fire, and the damned thing grew legs and skidded into an air duct.
Damn,
said Wardua. She looked from Avalo to Grondo.
Are you sure that's a real thing?
It is, Grondo confirmed. You can check for yourself once we get out the bunker.
Yeah,
Wardua sighed.
I miss the void web.
Can't be helped, Vigar shrugged. The bunkers give up a lot of convenience in the name of security. The multiplicity's listed in the ship's database, Grondo pointed out. You can look it up when we're done playing cards.
Like I'd trust anything that came out of your computers, Wardua snorted. No, not after last time.
It was a harmless prank, Vigar protested.
I should have let you be eaten,
she told him. Moving on, Avalo changed the subject. Once the infection was confirmed, we had the drones download the station's files and send them to us. Then we slagged the place. The station, the drones, our own dropship, everything. We didn't stop until every inch of material in a 500-kilometer radius was heated into plasma. Good, Grondo and Zygar both said. It seemed excessive at the time, Avalo admitted. Almost as excessive as spending the next 3 weeks scouring every inch of our ship's hull with drones, then sending them to scour every inch of the space between us and the remains of the station, then slagging the drones too." He looked around the table to see everyone had forfeited. No Monday this round. Avalo gathered the cards and began to shuffle. "Even after the CO explained, I didn't understand just how dangerous the thing was." He shuddered. "Now that I know, I'm amazed we didn't self-destruct our own ship too, just in case." "Well, your species still exists," said Grondo. "I'd say things worked out." "True." Avalo examined his cards. "How about you, Grondo? What's your scariest species?" "Mine's a little different," Grondo said gravely. "Omnivore, pursuit predator, sapient."
Sapient? Wardora rolled all 6 of her eyes. Really? For Drusk's sake, Grondo? You're pulling the old sapients are the most dangerous game trope? She shook her head. I thought better of you.
No, no, no. Grondo waved away her concern. It's not like that. We all know other sapients are dangerous, but ain't none of us scared of them. These things, though. The species I'm talking about are the most deadly, unpredictable, and terrifying creatures to ever sail through the stars. I'm talking about an unstoppable wave of death, responsible for no less than 30 mass extinctions. I'm talking... Grondo leaned forward, voice grave. About the Dirtlings.
Dirtlings?
Wardour's face scrunched up in confusion. Humans, Vigar clarified. He means humans. Dirt is what they named their planet.
They named their planet Dirt?
Wardour gave Grondo an incredulous look.
And we're supposed to take this seriously?
I told you they're unpredictable, Grondo shrugged. Dirtlings are widely considered to be insane. They evolved on a death world just like you, only theirs was a Class 8.
You're full of it, the Milokai declared. Sapients don't evolve on Class 8s and above.
They did on this one, said Grondo. Planet Dirt has some of the most dynamic and aggressive ecosystems ever recorded. Evolution is rapid and vicious, with nearly everything trying to kill everything else. Even the plants try to kill everything around them. They've got carnivorous plants, fungus that takes over the nervous system of other creatures, 6-ton homicidal herbivores, and carnivores that can sprint 120 kilometers an hour. Their microbes mutate so rapidly that Dirt's been declared a plague world. That's the environment humans evolved in, and they dominated completely. And he does mean dominated, Vigar cut in. Dirtlings didn't just rise above their predators. They turned them into pets. Venomous insects, aggressive herbivores, carnivores 4 times their size. The Dirtlings tamed them, taught them to do tricks. It didn't matter that some of those beasts were specifically evolved to eat them. Did eat them sometimes. The Dirtlings asserted dominance and loved it. He finished his bottle and slammed it down on the table. They were evolved to dominate. They even used dominance to hunt. Dominance to hunt? Avalo was skeptical. How does that work? Simple, said Grondo. Humans were slower and weaker than most of the things they hunted. No claws, no fangs, no venom. What they did have was endurance. A lot of endurance. Humans were known to run up to 80 kilometers in a single day. He checked his cards, then changed out 2 of them. So what they did was, they ran up on a prey animal, and they scared it.
They scared it?
Wardour raised 3 eyebrows.
And that worked?
They'd get the beastie to take off running, Grondo clarified. And then they'd run after it. The animal would get ahead fast, but the Dirtling would catch up. Over and over, the prey was forced to run. For hours, or days. The terrified beast wouldn't get to stop, wouldn't get to rest. The Dirtling would make it run until it couldn't run any more, until it ran itself to death, or was too tired to fight back. Then the human would feed.
Huh, Wardour grunted. That's a weird way to hunt.
Don't listen to Grondo, said Avalo. Dirtlings aren't that great. I hear they didn't even achieve FTL on their own. They're uplifts. Grondo grunted. That's one way to put it. It's the only way, said Avalo. Grondo peered at the Yorvan. You mean you don't know the story?
What story?
It was Wardour who asked. Avalo's right, said Vygar. Humans didn't achieve spaceflight on their own. They got it from the Tylovian Empire.
Never heard of them, said Wardour.
They don't exist no more, Grondo told her. The Tylovians were conquerors. They liked to attack primitive civilizations. They pressed the sapiens into slavery and plundered their worlds for resources. They were good at it, too. The Tylovians were one of the middling powers in the galaxy at the time. Didn't help them much, Vygar noted. No, it didn't, said Grondo. The Tylovians were the first species to find planet Dirt, and they liked what they saw. They swooped in with an armada and started scooping up the local populace. Things were going good for almost a week before the Dirtlings found a way to break out of their pens. They took one of the ships, armed themselves with Tylovian technology, and managed to board and take the entire armada in just under a day. The Tylovians got off a distress signal, said Vygar. The Empire sent a second armada, a bigger one. The Dirtlings ambushed it before it made it to Dirt. The Tylovians sent more fleets, Grondo continued. Tried to wipe out the things before they got too dangerous. The Dirtlings outmaneuvered them and took their ships. Turns out Dirtlings were a lot more creative and resourceful than the Empire guessed, said Vygar. It took them just under 5 cycles to start building ships of their own, and those ships were an order of magnitude better than what the Tylovians had. Once they had a big enough fleet, Grondo continued, the Dirtlings launched a war of extinction. They wiped out the Tylovians and every species dumb enough to side with them. That was 400 cycles ago, and they've done the same to every species that bothered them ever since.
That's got to be a made-up story, Wardour decided. Or I'd have heard of them by now.
You haven't heard of them because you are a rookie, Vygar told her.
What did I say about calling me that?
Wardour hissed. It's what you are, Vygar insisted. Humans keep to themselves mostly, but any serious hunter knows about them and knows to stay away. They're not that dangerous, Avalo disagreed. Not that dangerous, Grondo scoffed. You've been listening? A baseline human is a terror of adaptability, able to force their bodies and minds to adapt through trauma and repetition. They've managed to increase over 1,000% in nearly every aspect of their physiology. Strength, speed, endurance, oxygen requirements, pain tolerance, even intelligence in some cases. And that's just the baseline, Dirtlings, Vygar jumped in. Dirtling engineers are as crazy as they are brilliant, and they've spent 400 cycles finding ways to improve Dirtling bodies. Gene editing, forced mutation, cybernetics, all kinds of scat. I've seen an enhanced human tear a Warmech apart with his bare hands. He drew 3 cards, then sighed and forfeited. They are not to be trifled with. Ever. I've got 3 skulls in my trophy room that say different, Avalo argued. Grondo froze. A chill washed over him. He turned slowly to look at the Yaujin. You... what? An adult male and 2 juveniles, Avalo told him. I took them 2 months ago. It was easy. You killed humans? Grondo stared at the fool. You killed human children? I heard you talk a lot about Dirtlings. I wanted to see for myself. Avalo shrugged. I wasn't impressed. It wasn't much of a hunt. You killed human children. Grondo's apprehension gave way to shock, then anger. You killed human children, and then you came here? Why not? Asked Avalo. They were clean kills. I left no traces. You goddamned moron! Grondo shouted. You've killed us all! Vygar whipped out a gun and leveled it at the Yaujin. We should kill you right here. Avalo growled at the Ogeron, but he wasn't stupid enough to reach for his weapons. Put it away, Vygar, Grondo ordered. There's already been enough stupid today. We should kill him, Vygar insisted. You want to steal a kill from a human? Grondo asked him. Vygar scowled, then grimaced. He holstered his piece. Grondo stood. We need to leave, now. Vygar nodded and scooped up his winnings.
We can't leave, Wardoa protested. It's the night cycle. Freevens will tear your ship out of the sky.
We might die if we try to leave, Grondo admitted. We'll definitely die if we don't. Avalo watched for a moment, then let out an annoyed grunt. Fine, let me get my gear. You're not coming, said Grondo. Avalo glowered. You think I'll let you maroon me? You can charter yourself a ship in the morning, Grondo told him, but you ain't coming with us. Assuming he's still alive in the morning, Vygar muttered. No! Avalo pulled his blaster, aiming at Vygar and Grondo. You're not leaving me here! You don't get it! Grondo didn't bother drawing a weapon. Killing Avalo at this point would be slitting his own throat. You killed humans. Worse, children. Humans are pack animals with strong emotional bonds, Vygar added, and they're very protective of their young. Even if the male didn't have a mate, Grondo continued, any dirtling that finds murdered kids is going to come for you. You're going to die, Avalo. You're going to die badly. If the rest of us are here when it happens, we'll die too. Don't be so dramatic, Grondo. Avalo kept his weapons leveled. It's been 2 months, and we're in a bunker on a death world. Even if some dirtling showed up, they couldn't get in. You're an idiot, Avalo, Grondo dripped with disdain. You heard the stories, but you didn't listen. The humans have a phrase for people like you. Try to procreate and learn something new. He finished his booze and debated rushing the Yaujin. Killing might be off the table, but kicking his dumb ass wasn't. Well, you tried to procreate. I'm not gonna be here when the learning starts.
That's not the phrase.
The voice was cold, flat, and female. Grondo froze, then slowly turned. There was a dirtling standing next to him. The human was small, just over 1.5 meters in height, pale skin, hair the color of blood. Her eyes were blue, cold and piercing. Grondo saw the telltale lines of silver in her iris. She was enhanced. The human carried no weapons, but there was an intensity in her bearing that set Grondo's instincts to screaming. Avalo didn't hesitate. His blasters swiveled and fired in the blink of an eye. The bolts hit nothing. The human was already beside him. Grondo didn't know if she'd teleported or if she was just that fast. Neither would have surprised him. Small, delicate hands had already wrapped themselves around the Yalvan's wrists. The human squeezed. Avalo screamed. Guns fell from floppy, useless hands. Grondo sat back down very slowly. He kept his eyes on the human, carefully placing his hands flat on the table. In his peripheral vision, he saw Vygar doing the same. Wardour reached for her gun, but Vygar stopped her. Don't even think it, rookie. The Ogeron warned her. Keep your hands in sight and don't move. The human grabbed Avalo by the throat and lifted him off the ground. His spiky tendrils lashed out, trying to sting the dirtling over and over. The human ignored them. Grondo! Grondo! Avalo panicked. You have to help me! Grondo shook his head. Grondo! The Yalvan begged. Don't leave me, Grondo! You can't let the human take me! You can't! The dirtling reached up. She gripped the Yalvan's jaw. She squeezed. Avalo's begging transformed into an agonized, gurgling squeal. He continued to squeal as the human walked away.
Wait!
Wardour called. The human paused. Grondo shot a murderous glare at the rookie. The dirtling was leaving. Why the gren would Wardour call her back?
What was the phrase?
Wardour called.
The one Grundo got wrong.
Fuck around, said the human, and find out.
Then she was gone, and the squealing Yavin with her. The survivors looked at each other. Wardour let out a breath. All right, Grundo, you win. Humans are definitely the scariest species.